activate.
Welcome to season 2 of In-the-305 with Oliver Gilbert. If you watched season 1, you know that this is the show where we talk about the many topics impacting our community. I'm your host, Oliver Gilbert. Our first episode ever was one that dealt with something that many of our residents are concerned about, transportation. Well, in keeping with that tradition, we want to continue that topic, this time focusing on one of Miami-Dade's main forms of transportation, the high-speed, eco-friendly inner-city rail Brightline. Today, we'll talk to the man in charge of it all, Brightline President Patrick Goddard. And what better way to do it than on one of his trains? Right now, I'm at the Miami Central Station, Northwest 1st Avenue and 6th Street. I'll meet Mr. Goddard here, and we will head to Fort Lauderdale and then back, right here, to Miami. Let's go. All right, Patrick, first of all, thank you for welcoming us on the train to Brightline. This is a wonderful experience, so thank you.
It's amazing to have you. We love having people on board, any chance we can get.
Now, this is good. Now, I know there are two ways to actually travel on Brightline. Now, there's a smart class and a premium class. Explain to us what the difference is.
Okay, so we're actually sitting in premium right now. You're actually seeing some memories of the Taylor Swift train here. This is actually from her program. We worked with the Little Word Project. But you're on premium now, and you'll notice there's only 3 seats across. There's less than 50 seats on this particular coach. The other 3 coaches are called Smart Class. Very similar. There are more seats in each coach. There's about 66 seats in those coaches, so 4 across instead of 3 across. When you book a premium ticket, you get access to the premium lounge prior to your departure, which includes complimentary food and beverage, including wine and beer. And then on board, you get complimentary food and beverage, including wine and beer, for the entire trip up to Orlando. So it's an elevated service. You have a dedicated train attendant taking care of all of your needs in this coach.
Love premium. I love that the drinks are included. It's been a while since I've done it, but it's just, the service is so amazing.
I like having the extra space, the unlimited cocktails, and the table.
Very comfortable. I like the seats were pretty comfortable. They were like, if your head is tilting and all that, I really like that part. The seats were pretty good.
In the Smart Coach, it's more like, I wouldn't describe it as economy, I would describe it as more like a business class. So it's still beautiful leather seats, outlets everywhere, great Wi-Fi. You also have service, but you've got to pay for food and beverage in Smart.
Well, yeah, I've been in Smart before, and it was wonderful. It's definitely not economy. It's wonderful.
It's intended to still be a very nice experience. This is just, premium is just an elevated experience for those people who are looking for a little bit of a more special experience.
So Brightline is relatively new. 10 years ago, I think you all finally you started planning this out and getting started then. But during that time, you all have grown really fast. Right. Talk to me about how you expanded and how you plan to expand, because there seems to be an increased desire and use of the train.
So it's been a 10-year odyssey. I mean, 10 years ago is really when we sat down with a piece of paper and said we wanted to build this thing on the existing Florida East Coast Railroad tracks. At the time, the company that owned us owned Florida East Coast Railroad, so really the project started on third base because we had control of that right of way, and that's really critical, a critical component for anyone who's trying to build intercity passenger rail today. Having the right of way is really the number one thing, having the ability to actually build. So we had that 10 years ago. We started planning. We really only started construction in 2014. We delivered what we call phase 1, which was Miami to West Palm Beach, about 70 miles at the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018 is when we delivered the project. We started operating that in the beginning of 2018. And that was just a 3-stop railroad, 70 miles, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. We operated that until March of 2020. We shut down for COVID. In 2019, we started construction on what we call phase 2, which was West Palm to Orlando. And that took us about 4 years to build. We delivered that in September of 2023. So just a little over a year ago, we opened up the Orlando segment.
I've taken it to Orlando twice in 1 week, actually, for concerts.
I have taken it to Orlando. I've gone from West Palm to Orlando several times with my daughter to travel to Universal.
When we shut down for COVID in 2020, we thought we'd shut down until we opened Orlando, but we actually decided to reopen sooner. We reopened at the end of 2021. And, the ridership has been growing ever since then. We're now carrying anywhere between 250, 275,000 passengers a month on this service. And the long haul service in November will carry more than 160,000 passengers just between South Florida and Central Florida. So we're moving about 10,000 people a day, between all of these cities, and it's really starting to become part of the fabric of life for Floridians, for people who live here. So 70% of our customers are residents, but then you got domestic tourists who come into Florida to visit, and then international tourists that make up domestic tourists make up about 20%, international about 10% of our market. But we're becoming an alternate mode to move between Central Florida and South Florida for a lot of people, which is what we set out to do.
So that's 10,000 people who aren't in cars, who aren't on roads, 10,000 people a day who have the ability to sit in a train and do work and relax and not have the stress of driving.
Yeah, and that's part of the big paradigm shift that's happening as we start to see more and more adoption. People are recognizing the value of train travel versus being in a car. There's a lot of friction psychologically for people to try a train for the first time. How much does it cost? How do I get to the train station? How do I get from the train station to my final destination? Now, we've solved a lot of those problems, but still for people, it's a little bit difficult to overcome. But once we get people on for the first time, they recognize those intrinsic benefits. They're calm, they're relaxed, they're not stressed out, they don't have to pay attention to the road. They can eat, they can have a drink, they can watch a Netflix movie for the entire duration of the trip. Their kids can run up and down the aisles and go to the bathroom. There's no rest stops. There's no refueling your vehicle. There's no paying for parking when you get on the other end. So a lot of people like this idea of being able to start their trip, really, and in many cases start their vacation or start their work day the minute they get on the train. There's no going through TSA, there's no waiting in a line, there's no we're taking off or we're landing or we've got turbulence. You can be productive the minute you sit down, whether the train is moving or not. You can open up your laptop. We've got Wi-Fi from Starlink, very powerful Wi-Fi, free, that people can sit down. There's outlets everywhere on these trains. Lots of places for you to plug in your devices. There's lighting above, there's storage here. There's food and beverage that's offered. So it's a very comfortable experience. And once people actually try it and they experience it, they all come back. We've found that basically every single month, about half or more of our customers are repeat customers now. After only being open for 1 year, half of our customers are repeat customers. And then there's new to system people coming and trying it for the first time every day as well.
I typically use Brightline to commute from Jupiter to either Fort Lauderdale, Aventura, or Miami to either catch a cruise plane or to shop. It's more convenient.
I love the Brightline. It's clean. The service is really good. It's a great experience.
We usually use it just to travel to and from Miami, usually for concerts or special events.
I like it because it was quick, simple, and I met some pretty cool people.
You talk about the expansions you've made already. It's happening, right? So you've expanded a lot. But as Miami is becoming, recognized as an art hub, a sports hub, a tech hub, what's Brightline's role in that?
So I think it's about making everyone's backyard smaller. I think it's about making their business community smaller. I think it's making access to resources easier. It's making education, healthcare more accessible to people and in ways that it wasn't available before. We have a lot of people who use this service who are disabled. We have a lot of people who use the service who are elderly and don't want to sit in a car for 3 to 5 hours to get between Miami and Orlando. I have a lot of friends who will put their parents on the train because they know that they're safe and they know that they're going to get there at the time that they think they're going to get there. So I think it's really being transformative for the business community and for the leisure customer, the tourist who's coming into town, and for personal use. A lot of people we've got about 20% of the kids who are going to UCF originate from South Florida. They live in South Florida. So getting up and down for college, having their parents come and visit, having family come and visit, that can all happen on the train now. It's really being transformative in terms of connecting people and making their backyard a lot smaller. For South Florida residents, I mean, one of the biggest things that we saw was how it really expanded people's backyard. Miami people don't typically get out of Miami-Dade County. But with the train now, they can get to an inter-Miami game. They can go to Dolphins games, although that's still in Miami, in your district. But you know, whereas before they wouldn't make that trek. It's a lot easier for them to do things like that today. We've got people coming down from Orlando going to Formula One in May. We've got people coming down from Orlando going to Dolphins games, actually.
Yes.
So it's starting to really transform how people think about their leisure activities, their business activities. You walk up and down this train today, you're going to find developers, engineers, architects, people working on projects throughout the region, consultants who can now connect to their customers, connect to more business using this mode of transportation. We're going to hit Aventura. We just left Miami 5 minutes ago. We're going to hit Aventura in less than 7 or 8 minutes. When's the last time you got between Miami and Aventura in 13 minutes?
Yeah.
Or 14 minutes? It can't happen. It's impossible. So it's really becoming a transformative thing for people in terms of how they can connect to the things that matter to them.
You're right, because my wife and I, we're actually talking about taking the Brightline up to West Palm and going to dinner and taking it back. We would never drive to West Palm for dinner. We have wonderful restaurants here, but there's a nice, I think it's called Restoration Hardware or something. We're gonna get up there and go.
If I had $1 for every person I met in Miami who's gone to Restoration Hardware for brunch with their friends, I'd be a rich man.
Yeah, so that's something we would not do, but for the existence of Brightline.
That's right.
And so that's important.
And that connectivity into West Palm is actually really amazing. When you walk out of the station at the Brightline station in West Palm, you are walking right into the middle of City Place. There are, an abundance of restaurants. It's all walkable. It's beautiful. It's a great environment. And people are starting to discover this now, little by little, and it's really transforming some of their habits.
Well, and what you all have done is amazing, because what you've actually done is made real how, U.S. Department of Transportation actually sees us. They see us as an urbanized area. They see Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach as an urbanized area. That's how they look at us. A group of people who go between the lines are blurred. You all are actually making that real, and so that's very important.
It's such an interesting topic, this idea of regionalism. When you look at this corridor, the 70-mile corridor of West Palm south to Miami, you can compare it to the Northeast corridor, right? In terms of the GDP output, the population, the demographics. We're just about 50 years behind in terms of transportation infrastructure.
That is it.
And we just need to catch up and realize and recognize who we have become and what is necessary to connect the region in the way that's going to be most productive for those residents.
Listen, I was speaking to some of the corporate leaders in the state, and when they talk about Southeast Florida, they talk about this Tri-County area, they see it as the new and the next Manhattan. They see us becoming not just entertainment and tech and art, but the financial capital of this hemisphere. And so we need to improve rapid mass transit. It just has to happen. Now, there's a big game coming. It's not a game, it's a month full of games. World Cup is coming to Miami-Dade County in 2026. That's gonna be a lot of people coming here. What does Brightline have planned for World Cup?
We think of ourselves as an asset to the state. We serve the whole state. We're almost, God willing, we'll connect to Tampa at some point in the not too distant future, at which point we'll connect to 75% of Florida's 20 plus million residents. So we view ourselves as an asset for the whole state. So when an event like FIFA 2026 shows up, and by the way, I'm on the board of that committee, as I think you are, we're looking for ways to ensure that we are facilitating movement of people. There's going to be tens of thousands of people who are going to want to move around the state, not just to enjoy the soccer games, but to enjoy everything around the state. So we want to make sure that the Brightline is opening up all of those opportunities to people, giving them access to all of the great amenities that the state has to offer.
Please gather your belongings.
The need for transportation is regional. And so a lot of times we look at things as though they're county specific or even portions of county specific, but in truth, what Brightline has done is approached it like there are people who in West Palm who come to Miami-Dade County all the time for business, for pleasure. We have to find a way to connect them easier. We have to make that connection easier, because that's the reality of our lives. That's the reality of our business.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what we've observed is transportation needs to be an ecosystem. And we just talked about South Florida being a region. And you got a region with 6-7 million people living in it and traveling in and out of all of these counties who don't really care, about purse strings and budgets and who's doing what project. They care about mobility. They care about being able to get from point A to point B. They care about alternatives. They care about affordable housing. They care about where can I work and live and make good for myself. So I think what we've been able to do, a couple of things. I think number one is I think we've demonstrated that intercity passenger rail in the United States of America, which hasn't existed for really over 100 years, can exist, can be executed, can be done successfully, and can be done by the private sector, and can be done, in the public-private environment too. We're working on a project out west where we're working with the federal government on that project. I think the second thing that we've demonstrated, other than what train travel could look like in this country, is I think we've catalyzed conversations throughout the region, because now they see that this exists. They're like, okay, now I understand this connection, this connective tissue that connects the region and then connects it to Central Florida as a region. How can I connect to that? How can I make sure that I have tentacles in my sub-hub that connect to this? So if you think about hub and spoke, we've got all these sort of, stations located in these downtown areas of South Florida and then in Central Florida that are in these, that are really hubs. And they connect to all these different areas. And we're thinking about, as we think about transportation plans in Miami-Dade and Broward and West Palm, in the Treasure Coast and Brevard and Central Florida, we've got to start thinking about this like an ecosystem. And okay, what are the problems we're trying to solve? And how do we not compete for the same money? How do we not get in each other's way? How do we not compete for things that are going to be overall beneficial to our community, our region, versus just working on siloed projects that may or may not be relevant or may not be the priority?
No, you have it right. It's people don't wake up thinking about, oh yeah, I want to solve transportation. People wake up thinking about, how am I going to do this for work? How am I going to get to this game? How am I going to connect with these folks? Right. They worry about their lives. So how does this actually help their life? This is helping their life. It's giving them an option.
That's right.
And when we give folks these options, what happens is, ultimately we do have fewer people on roads. That makes it even easier for the people who still choose to drive.
Yes.
Ultimately, we provide a connective tissue. I love that. So many people don't think about actually what it takes to actually get these stations off the ground and get this actually going. What does it take? It's not just transportation that you all are into. What goes into that?
Look, I think as I said, this project was born on third base. We already own the infrastructure. These tracks were already running from Miami to Jacksonville. At one point, they ran from Key West to Jacksonville. And we had the good fortune of owning a lot of the property in these downtown areas already. So what we were able to do is think about, where is this going to make the most sense in terms of where we locate these stations. So identifying the right location for the stations was number one. And then really it's about the functionality of the station itself. I was a hotel guy for 20 plus years, and a lot of my time and energy and effort was invested in developing new hotels, which really comes down to, all right, I got to look at it through the lens of the guest. What's their experience going to be when they pull up? Can they find parking? Can they pull up to the front drive easily? Can they get in to check in simply? Can they get up to the room easily? When they get to their room, can they plug, do they have to climb underneath the bed to plug in their phone charger? So all of these are the things that we think about when we were designing these stations. It was really about, the reason why they brought a hotel guy to Brightline, to a train company, was because I think the founders of the company understood the importance of experience. That it's not just about the commodity of transportation. It's about building an experience around that. And really, things matter to people. Like architecture matters to people, believe it or not. Interior design matters to people. How a space functions matters to people. How it smells, how it looks. Is it clean? Does it feel safe? Are there friendly people? Is the quality of the food and beverage good? So these are all things that I think signal to people that it's safe here, that you're welcome here, that we're going to take care of you. And that's really the difference between us, I think, and most other transportation companies is we look at it through the lens of the guest experience.
It's the customer experience, that's what it is. And it's the little things like on the seats, where you thought about the fact that when the seats recline, it's the bottom that slides out and not the back, because you don't want to be like on the airplane when somebody, there's always that guy in front of you who actually pushes back on your seat and bangs your knees. I hate that because I'm a little tall. It always happens. And so you thought about that. That type of experience is important. Now, you know, we talked about the connective tissue and we talked about the hubs, and I know that there are a lot of folks who need to get to and from airports, like Fort Lauderdale Airport, Miami International Airport. How are we addressing their concern?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important because we've got, you know, right now, Orlando and Miami are pretty equal in terms of traffic. They're in the 50 to 60 million a year range. I think Fort Lauderdale is nearly 35, 40 million people a year. That's a lot of people who are moving through there. They need to get other places. They're not staying at the airports, right? So in Orlando, we're actually connected to the airport. The station terminal is sitting in the Orlando International Airport. And then Fort Lauderdale and Miami, we've got 2 shuttles per hour rotating from the stations to the airport. We've got our own custom shuttles that people can basically walk up to and get on. We've got stops at the airports where you can just stand there and get picked up by the next one. There's one around every 15, 20 minutes. But that's been a very successful program. In Miami's pretty unique. As you know, we're connected to Government Center, so we're connected to the Metro Rail station there, we're connected to the Metro Mover station there, we're also connected to the Overtown Metro Rail station and the Wilkie D. Ferguson Metro Mover station, and now we've got Tri-Rail coming in into the Brightline station itself, into 2 of our 5 platforms in Miami Central. So you got, and then both Tri-Rail and Metro Rail service the airport too. So you can get to the Miami airport either on Metro Rail or on Tri-Rail or on one of our shuttles in Miami. And then Fort Lauderdale, we just got the shuttle going back and forth.
We're sitting in the lounge here at the Fort Lauderdale station. Wonderful bar. Listen, this is actually very nice. Wonderful full-service bar, having 2 espressos, some nice water. This is a wonderful experience.
Thank you. Yeah. This is actually our Mary Mary bar. By the way, if you're wondering why it's called Mary Mary, there's one of these in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, and Orlando. It's because Henry Flagler, who built these train tracks, had 3 wives. 2 of them were called Mary.
Oh, wow.
So we named the bar after 2 of the Marys.
So he had a type.
Yeah, he had a type, exactly.
He had a type. Now, it's not often that our viewers get an opportunity to hear from someone who's running a major company, who's doing all these wonderful things in the community. Please tell us a little bit about you, Patrick.
A lot of serendipity, as these things tend to be. I was born in Ireland. I was educated there. I went to hotel school. I moved to the United States in 2000 as an Irish immigrant on my own, and worked in hotels in DC. Moved down to Orlando, and ended up in Miami about 20 years ago. And I've been in Miami now since 2004, 2005. I was in the hotel business, as I said, and I was approached in 2016 to join this great team at Brightline because, you know, as I told you earlier, they really wanted to build an experience around transportation, and that's what I've had the honor and pleasure of being able to do for the last 8 years.
Oh, wow. Well,
You get one of those brown sugars.
so you're Irish.
I am Irish. Yes.
So that song, Oh Danny Boy,
That's right.
the pipes are calling.
Very good.
So we're in the Fort Lauderdale station, right? How long did it take to get this station built? It's very nice.
So this station was delivered at the end of 2017. We started building it. It took about 2 years to build. It's about a 60,000 square foot station. And, you know, we already own the land. It's right next to the bus station. It's on Broward Boulevard. So dead smack in the middle of downtown Fort Lauderdale, really at the gateway to downtown Fort Lauderdale. And just like all of our other stations, this is sort of one of our medium-sized stations, designed with the guest in mind, right? Really thinking about the guest experience. You can see the architecture, the interior design, the functionality, same format as all the other stations.
You know, I lost track because we were talking. How long did it take to get from Miami here?
About 28 minutes.
28 minutes. You couldn't do that in the car. You couldn't even you couldn't get on the 95 in the car from there. 28 minutes. So
there's like no way. There's no way.
Yeah. No. Well, listen. This has been wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'll definitely be seeing you around. And please keep up the good work. I'm headed back to Miami.
Thanks for coming out. Good to see you. All right. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the first episode of our second season. Listen, we've been on Brightline. We've gone from Miami all the way to Fort Lauderdale and back. It was fast. It was comfortable. It was really like a hotel on a train, except for you were getting from point A to point B to point C and then coming back. I can't express how wonderful it was. Thank you to everyone here at Brightline for actually making us feel like we were at home. You know, remember, you can find all of our past episodes on islandtv.tv. Have a good night, and we'll be seeing you soon.